Okay, so we're going to jump over to DeskProto. Now I'm using DeskProto 7, which at the time of this video is the latest version. There are a series of wizards and things you can do from the startup screen. I'm going to get a little bit lowbrow on this. You can start a wizard to do what we're doing now. There are wizards available. I'm going to go through the long way for you, okay? So you've got the base entry screen for DeskProto. I'm going to take a minute or two in this video just to go through setting up DeskProto to use your machine. You may or may not have cutters pre-existing in the libraries. Your machine may not be set up. So let's walk through those things. So in the top menu, you've got parameters for your parts, your operation parameters. This is what we'll be using primarily to produce parts. I never use the top menu, but up to you, however you want to work through it. I normally work through the side menu over here, but we're going to start in the options. Okay, so go to options and work from top to bottom. Look at your library of machines. Now you will see that the mini-techs already have profiles inside of DeskProto for all the machines available. In your case, I've got the Minimal 3, you've got the Minimal 2, you work in millimeters in Mac, so you'd be selecting that one. So come in here, select that. Okay, I'm going to cancel out of that because mine is already selected. The next thing we want to start doing is looking at the library of post processors. Now in your case and my case, we're both using Mac 3. So you'd come down here and select Mac 3, Mac 4 in millimeters. And as you'll see, there's many different kinds of G-code post processors for different machines, but in our case that one, so select it. And then depending on where you buy cutters, this is probably the most important screen you're going to have to work in. This is a library of pre-made cutters that comes with the software, and you'll see that I've added a few at the bottom for myself. And I always double check all my cutters anyhow, because just because somebody said it's a 3mm doesn't necessarily mean it is a 3mm. So you probably want to double check your cutters before you start cutting with anything. So I'm going to add a 317 ball mill to this, which we're going to be used for roughing a little bit later on. Now there is a ball mill with a radius of 1.5, let me have a look, 1/8, the Americans call it. Ball nose 1/8. Where are we? 1/8. So I'm going to go in there. Now that would work for me for the cutter that I have, assuming that it's exactly 3.17 millimeters, and that's a big assumption. All right. So instead of doing all of that, I'm going to go add one, and then you also know how to use this to do stuff. So I'm going to give it a name. I like to go 3.17 millimeter ball end, and we'll get into a little bit about flutes, but in this case this is a 2 flute, which just means how many cutting faces does the cutter have. File name 317 ball end. Alright, so you'll see a little preview of what it is we're working with. Now I happen to know the dimensions of my cutters, but you would measure out all these dimensions, okay? So in this case we're going to be using a ball end, which means that the end of the cutter is round, not flat. In the case of most of your jewelry cutters, they're going to be conical. So in other words, they come down with a taper, and they may have a ball tip and they may not have. So we will have a look at the second cutter I use that does have that. The free length of the cutter in my case is 35 millimeters. The shaft diameter is 3.17 millimeters, which in American talk is 1/8. Alright, the cutting length on the cutter is 15 millimeters. Alright, the maximum spindle speed for this cutter, in your case, your maximum spindle speed in all cases is 25,000 RPM. And you can assign it a number if you had an automatic tool changer. Now I don't have an automatic tool changer, neither do you, but if you wanted to, you can actually set a number saying that I'm using tool 1, tool 2, tool 3, tool 4, and the machine would know where to find it. Okay, so that's the tapered ball end we're going to use. I'm going to add that to the library. And let me show you the settings for the tool we're going to be using for finishing. It's a tapered cutter, It's a ball nose, and then there's a 0.5 millimeter diameter. So in this case, we selected conical with the ball tip, same free length, same shaft. It tapers down. Now remember that this is a 15-degree cutter, but when they advertise it as 15-degree cutter, what they mean is the total angle over 2 lengths. Your actual cutting angle is defined by this over here. So half of your cutting half of the angle of the cutter. The face end of the cutter, what is the difference between the straight angle and the angle coming down? So you'd half the advertised angle, put in there the tip diameter is 0.5 and the cutting length in my case is 12 millimeters. I'm going to take that down to 25 as well while I'm in there. Okay. Alright, so you've now set up the cutters that you bought, and you're going to then move through. When I go into the video and actually setting up parts, you will see that the default parameters for all your parts and all your geometry operations can require a lot of changing every time depending on how you cut. So if you primarily cut a lot of 4-axis stuff, you're going to want different defaults in here, you're going to want different defaults in there. And you would also do that underneath your options. So you've got default project parameters, which is that guy up there, part parameters, vector operations, so that every time you open DeskProto, the majority of the things that you have to keep changing are already inside there. Okay, I'm going to shut out this video and we're going to move on to actually putting parts inside here, and you'll understand this section that I'm discussing in the next part.